Fine. But the second I'm on my street, you're leaving. Got it? What's that face for? Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Espoir Duvid, and today I want to play some more Crimson Hydrangea. In the last episode I took a few different paths, and we spent a whole lot more time with Garrett. But also find out that our ex is now on the island, our horrible, awful ex. And after having a lovely, hot apple cider date with Garrett, we were just about to find out exactly what our horrible, awful ex did. Why did they come here, of all places? They hate the cold, they hate small towns, and most of all, they hate you. They made that abundantly clear the last time you two spoke. Well, more like screamed at you. They had embarrassed you in front of all of your coworkers and friends. Scratch that. Their friends. That much was obvious when they took Tegan's side and turned on you after the breakup, blaming you for what happened. Tears stung your eyes as you felt the familiar heat of embarrassment course through your cheeks as you recalled the worst day of your life. Why does the soundtrack to the worst day of my life have to be so bumpin'? I reluctantly approached the stage to hand them the stupid, loathsome USB, only for the spotlight to land on you, showing off your baggy sweats and wine-stained clothes to a nightclub filled with partygoers. Then they dragged you center stage and proposed in a nightclub filled with strangers. Oh. Actually, Fluffing proposed. Despite the fact that you had told them you weren't ready for that kind of commitment multiple times. Oh. Despite the fact that they had hypothetically asked you what your ideal proposal would be, and you had answered a private one outside of the public eye. Despite the fact you had begged them to let you stay home because you felt horribly sick, and they had tricked you into humiliating yourself in front of a group of strangers. It wasn't a proposal, at least not a genuine one, not in your eyes. All they wanted was clout, to become viral and have you by their side as some kind of trophy. Why, you had no fluffing idea, but they did, for whatever reason. When you... Oh, lovely. I can choose my panic attack. Let's see. Frozen terror on the verge of bursting out into tears and feeling overwhelmed? Sounds accurate. Furiously called them out on their bullcrap and how selfish they were for putting you through this. Understandable. Politely tried to pull them off of the stage to decline. That wasn't the reaction they wanted. They wanted you to jump for joy, to be ecstatic, to thank them for even considering marrying you. They lost it. They shouted at you, berated you, and poured their drink on you, while countless onlookers watched. Well, that's gonna get you a kick in the kneecaps, friend. Tears streamed down your cheeks as a weak little sob escaped your throat before you rolled around in bed and buried your head into the pillow, letting out sob after sob until you quite literally cried yourself to sleep. Oh yeah, when I get a bunch of followers, anonymous followers, on my social media. Who are you people? So what if I did anything differently? Alright, so going back when we see Fluffface, I mean our ex, what if we do look back? What if we do try to mend any bridges, if the MC is willing to? You could see their world freeze, just as yours had when you first spotted them. Their expression shifted from genuine shock to... You didn't stick around to find out. Espoir! Wait! They practically screamed, their voice easily crossing the distance between you both and ringing in your ears. Do you look back? What if I do? What if I do? Despite your body moving faster than it ever had before in your life, you glanced back at them. They were frantically shouting for you, practically falling over all of their luggage to get to you before you disappeared. Their expression was one you had never seen them make before. However, you didn't dwell on it. You couldn't. Instead, you turned back around and ran. Unfortunately for you, just as you turned back, your foot came down on the edge of the curb, causing you to slip and take a rather nasty fall onto the cold, hard concrete. It took a second for the world to stop spinning around you, but the instant it did, you were back on your knees trying to get up. Ow! However, the moment you put the slightest bit of pressure on your left ankle, you yelped in pain. Ow! Immediately, you crumpled to the side as an unforgiving jolt shot up your leg. Fluff! 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 You needed to get up and out before they... Ah, dang it! Espoir, are you okay? You felt like throwing up as you looked up at your ex who was looming above you, a frighteningly concerned expression etched onto their familiar features. You took a really nasty fall. Why don't you... They began as they reached out to grab you and help you up. Don't touch me! You instinctively shouted as you scooted back away from them, ignoring the throbbing pain in your ankle in favor of getting away. It would take a broken ankle to keep me within a yard of you. Their startled expression was quickly replaced by a hurt one as you stood your ground. Well, more like sat on the ground. Leave me alone. Just go away, you continued, trying to scare them off and doing a poor job of it. If you were being honest, you probably looked more like a pathetic dog barking at someone after it's been cornered. Look, Espoir, you can't honestly expect me to leave you here like this. You're bleeding. Tegan had crouched down to an acceptable distance and was looking at you with an expression you couldn't quite put your finger on. Blood? You glanced down at yourself and noticed the palms of your hand had been scratched up pretty badly from your fall. Ooh. You really did a number on yourself trying to get away from them. Now that the adrenaline was wearing off, you could feel the stinging pain creep in. If you want, I can help you. No, absolutely not. There was no way you would accept their help, not after everything they've done to you. Why are you here, Foolio? Not after everything they put you through. If it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have abandoned your previous life and traveled halfway across the country to St. Anne's. Instead, you stubbornly decided to force yourself back up and ignore the pain in the process. Espoir, you're being ridiculous. Come on, if not me, then surely there's someone who can come and help you out. They offered as they stood up with their hands tentatively ready to catch you if you fell. This, of course, caused you pause. In all of the years that you've known them, they had never suggested nor wanted you to rely on anyone aside from themselves. Did you actually go to therapy or something in my absence? It was completely out of character for them to even think of such a thing. Sensing your hesitation, they offered you an anxious smile. Please, Espoir, I really just want to make sure you make it home okay. You just want to find out where I live. Narrows eyes at Tegan. They seemed to be telling the truth. Despite everything that happened between you two, their feelings towards you were never in question. How they dealt with their feelings, on the other hand. Perhaps it was lingering feelings for your ex rearing its ugly little head, or perhaps it was the throbbing and stinging pain in your lower body, but you reluctantly agreed. Fine, I'll call someone. Just keep your distance. Turning your back on them, you pulled out your phone. Who do you call? The Ghostbusters. Who do I call? Well, I can't call Rita. Rita is sick and she probably hates me. Marcelo. That's a good idea. Camilla's probably working. Marcelo. Can we get Marcelo up in here? He doesn't answer. Dang it. Give up? Camilla. She doesn't answer? That would be awful to call Rita after what I did. I'm not even going to entertain that idea. Give up? Fine. Mailed! Of all the times everyone had to be busy, of course it had to be today. After staring at your phone for a bit, you shove it back into your pocket and stubbornly start walking home with a slight limp to your step. Whoa, wait a second. What happened to calling someone? They asked as they immediately started following you, all thoughts of their luggage forgotten as they focused on you. They're busy. Now go away. You admit through gritted teeth as you try to quicken your step, only for Tegan to persistently continue following you. With your back turned towards them, you completely miss the look of elation flash upon their face before masking it with concern once more. Really? That's... They didn't even have to finish their sentence for you to imagine the look of pity on their face. Just the thought of it made your blood hot. Whipping your head towards them, you shot them an annoyed glare. Shut up, Tegan. Why are you even here? You hate the cold and you hate small towns. This should be the last place on earth you'd ever... You. I came here for you, they interrupted, an uncharacteristically serious expression on their face, and they gazed straight into your eyes. You froze. How did you find me? How do you feel? Angry or flattered? I feel pretty gosh darn angry. But I'll say flattered for another time. I'm pretty mad. My jimmies are rustled, and my blood is boiling. What the fluff? Why the heck couldn't they take a hint? You left them for a reason, and they think they can convince you to take them back? Absolutely not. No, never, in a million years. You shot them the nastiest glare you could muster. I scowl so hard at them that they mistake my face for Kratos. You shouldn't have wasted your fluffing time, Tegan. I left you for a reason, so why don't you take a hint and just leave me alone? Espoir, calm down. There's no reason you should get this worked up. We're adults now. I don't see why we can't have a conversation about... You let out an incredulous scoff. Adults? Talk things out? Where the fluff was that energy 7 months ago, before you completely ruined my life? Espoir, listen. Look, you're not innocent here. You hurt me too. Do you know how humiliated I was when you rejected me in front of everyone? They defended, trying their best to stay calm as you both started drawing questioning looks from bystanders. Hey, I'm going to have a bunch of witnesses here when I punch you in the stomach. As if you face-planting onto the concrete wasn't attention-grabbing enough. Not in front of the rich people, Tegan. Oh, don't you dare try to blame me, Tegan. I told you I was tired. I told you I didn't feel well, and I wanted to stay home. You tricked me into going to that darn club. Not only that, but you were the one who humiliated me by pulling me up on stage and proposing in a fluffing club full of strangers. It was supposed to be romantic, Espoir. I just wanted everyone to see how important you are to me. It's not my fault someone spilled their drink on you. If I had known that... If you had actually listened to me, it never would have happened. If you listened to the fact that I had a crappy day at work, felt sick, and didn't want to go, it never would have happened. I mean, Tegan, they have a point. If someone doesn't want to do something because they're not feeling well, it's probably a lot worse than not feeling well. You should probably listen to them if they're your significant other, but I don't know, I'm just standing here. You took a step forward, your blood practically boiling as several months of resentments began bubbling over. Heck, if you had actually listened to me about not being ready for marriage or wanting a spectacle for a proposal, none of this ever would have happened. You never listened to me, Tegan. All you do is force me to do whatever you want without caring about what I want or what I need. Even now, you came here because you wanted to, completely ignoring the fact that I want nothing to do with you. Yeah, Tegan, what if I have a hot, rich, blonde boyfriend who's completely stalking me right now? You're so fluffing selfish, Tegan, and I'm sick and tired of it. Wait, Espoir, please, just listen to me. No, that's all I ever did. I'm done listening, and I'm done with you. Just leave me alone for once in your life," you shouted as a few livid tears made their way down your cheeks. It was then a ferryman awkwardly stepped forward, clearly wishing he was anywhere but there at that very moment. He cleared his throat loudly, somehow managing to get both of your attention, despite the anger coursing through your veins. You would have felt worse for him if it wasn't for the fact that he was exactly what you needed in that very moment. Excuse me, sir. Your bags are still all over the gangway. They're blocking the—" It was then you decided to bolt while Tegan was distracted with the ferryman. "Be careful of that ankle." "Look, I don't give a crap about—" "Espoir, wait!" Tegan's reaction was just a moment too slow, and you were able to make it past them easily. "Bye! Ow!" Ignoring the slight throbbing pain on your ankle, you ran harder than you ever had in your entire life. Owie! Your lungs, legs, and chest burned as you pushed your body to get as far away from your ex as you possibly could. You tasted blood in your mouth, but you kept running. You managed to escape the docks and take a sharp right, only to crash into someone, nearly knocking you both to the ground. Somehow, the person you crashed into managed to keep their balance and tightly grab you as you practically collapsed against them. You did your best to catch your breath and apologize, but you couldn't. "Espoir? Espoir, what's wrong? What happened?" Garrett's startled voice broke through the relentless waves of blood pounding in your ears. "Oh, and then we get rescued by Garret. Wait, but what if we don't go to his house this time?" "Don't apologize. Please, just tell me what happened. I've never seen you react like that before," he questioned, his concern overflowing as he looked down at you, his gloved hand still gently wrapped around your forearm and wrist. Do you tell him? What if I don't? What if I clam up?" You look away. You didn't want to talk about it, not with him or anyone else for that matter. God, how pathetic were you, getting so worked up just because you saw your ex? What the heck was wrong with you? "Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. That's an entirely valid reason to be upset." Sensing your hesitation, he couldn't help but insist. "Espoir, come on, tell me. Maybe I can help," he offered as he gently tugged on your arms in an attempt to coax you out of it. "Unless you have a time machine, there's nothing you can really do," you mutter before pulling your hands back. Garrett's grip tightened for a brief moment, before reluctantly releasing you. "Aw. Look, I appreciate the help with, You gestured vaguely as you avoided eye contact. "I really do, but I need to be alone right now." You stayed as you stand up. He stands with you, his expression unreadable as he watches your every move. I gotta go. I'll see you around," you mumble as you quickly leave, not even waiting to hear his response. "Aw." Garret watched you leave, his eyes never leaving you until you disappeared down another street. It was then he grit his teeth, clenched and flexed his frozen fingers, and started walking towards the docks. "Oh, is somebody gonna get a black eye?" You arrive home 10 minutes later, feeling completely and utterly exhausted. It was still light out, and Camilla was nowhere to be seen. "I think you need a hot bath and a nap. A scented candle, eat some chips, and just get in the bed." Wanting nothing more than to lock yourself in your room for the rest of the night, you do just that. Silence fills the room as you stare up at the bottom bunk from your spot in bed. What if I go absolutely out of my fluffing mind and say I'm flattered that they came all this way to see me? As much as you still resented them for everything they put you through, you couldn't help but feel a little flattered that they were still heck-bent on finding you and fixing things between you two. I don't know. What do you want, Tegan? I'm not getting back with you if that's why you're here. you said with an exasperated sigh before crossing your arms and looking at them fully. If they were disappointed by your words, they didn't show it. Instead, they offered you a sheepish smile, one you had seen hundreds of times throughout the years you spent together. I miss you. It's as simple as that. I missed my favorite person. I missed my espoir. You could tell that they were being genuine, and despite yourself, you could feel Tegan's words tugging at your heartstrings. Don't fall for it, MC! Fluff, they really knew how to manipulate you into forgiving them regardless of what they did. This was why you moved away all those months ago. You had always had a particularly weak spot when it came to them. Well, not this time. Not if it was the last thing you did. Yeah! Somehow managing to stay firm, you averted your gaze and took a step back. I need to go home. Let me walk you home. Please? I'll leave right after I drop you off, I promise. They insisted, taking a step forward. You turned your gaze towards them once more. They seemed to be telling the truth. Were you really considering letting them walk you home despite everything? Sensing your resolve weaken, they moved in for the kill. Please, Espoir, it's the least I can do to try to make up for everything that happened. That alone was enough to spark your interest. Tegan, the Tegan Connors, was actually taking responsibility for once. In all the years you knew them, they had never willingly taken the blame for anything. I don't know, this doesn't seem like he's taking the blame. Maybe the time apart had changed them for the better. Either way, you were willing to hear them out, especially if it meant that they would leave you alone after dropping you off. Fine, but the second I'm on my street, you're leaving. Got it? What's that face for? Deal, they agreed with a smile, before turning over their shoulder and gesturing towards someone. You glanced in the direction they had been looking, and saw one of their groupies gathering their abandoned bags on the gangway. You couldn't help but roll your eyes. Of course they brought an assistant with them. Though, after looking at the amount of luggage, you could tell that they had brought some of their DJ equipment as well. Did they have a gig on the island? Tegan turned their attention back on you before reaching out their arm for you to take. After a moment of deliberation, you reluctantly took it. While your ankle still throbbed, you can tell it wasn't broken or sprained. If you had some painkillers in you, you'd probably be able to walk it off without much effort. However, the 10 to 15-minute walk back home would be uncomfortable without someone to help support you, even if that person was Tegan. For some reason, in these games, I've never had an ex-lover myself, but I seem to be extra salty if there's ever an ex in these games. Case in point, Ian. A slightly awkward silence settled between you two as you both headed towards your place. So, Espoir, how have you been? Tegan questioned with an anxious smile as they looked down at you, trying to make small talk. Something that you really weren't feeling up to, given the situation. Why did you even come here, Tegan? I made it clear I never wanted to see you again the last time we spoke. A complex range of emotions flitted across their face as they looked down at you. Just because you didn't want to see me doesn't mean I didn't want to see you, Espoir. You can't expect me to be okay with you just up and abandoning me like that. Not after seeing and talking to each other every day since high school. Smallest violin in the world playing just for you. As much as you hated to admit it, they did have a point. You were the one who abandoned them. I guess. You were each other's closest friends and companions. It must have been incredibly difficult, transitioning from spending nearly every waking moment with each other to having you virtually disappear overnight. Tegan, you were the one to take it to that level after the failed proposal. You saw them flinch at the reminder, and you paused. No, let's open up that wound. Let's take a good look at it. What were you doing? Were you really going to talk about this here and now, given how horribly this conversation erupted to a screaming match the last time you both attempted to discuss it? You felt it would be best to drop the topic altogether. Never mind. You sighed as you looked away, both of you falling into an uncomfortable silence. A few minutes dragged by until Tegan finally found the courage to speak up once more. Espoir, I really am sorry with how everything turned out. Not just what happened at the nightclub, but everything that happened afterwards. You glanced at them, unsure if they were being genuine, or if this was another trick of theirs to get you to let your guard down. You wouldn't put anything past them at this point. Let's get you home, okay? Maybe tomorrow we can talk about everything. I promise I won't freak out this time, they suggested, a forced smile on their lips as they waited for your reply. You hesitated. Even though Tegan was technically asking you, you knew it was more like an order. If you didn't agree to their request at that moment, they would continue pestering you until you did. Though, outside of knowing how annoyingly stubborn and persistent Tegan could be, there was a small part of you that actually wanted to take them up on that offer. Perhaps seeing them again left you feeling particularly emotionally vulnerable. Regardless of the reason, you ultimately decided that you wanted to talk this out. Even though you still weren't ready to get back into another relationship with them, you wanted closure. Both for yourself and for them as well. You both deserved closure, one way or another. I guess. After a few moments of contemplation, you nodded briefly. Okay, but I choose the place and time, and when I say it's over, you have to leave me alone. While you were willing to talk to them, there was no way you were going to do so without putting down some strict ground rules. You weren't the same pushover you were all those months ago. You couldn't let yourself be. Not anymore. At least not with Tegan. Tegan's expression lit up. Deal. I swear you won't regret it, Espoir. They grinned, surprisingly pleased with your conditions. If you were being honest, you expected more of a fight from them. You ended up stopping 2 streets away from your place. You might have been stupid enough to agree to meet up with your ex, but you weren't about to let them know where you lived after their less than stellar track record when it came to harassment and stalking you. You both exchanged numbers with one another. Well, more like you unblocked their number and they got your new number. Fingers crossed you didn't have to change your number after tomorrow's little talk. It was great seeing you again, Espoir. I had no idea you'd be waiting for me at the docks. Listen, I can still kick your knee out with my good knee, Tegan said with a small chuckle, trying to lighten the mood the best they could. Yeah, I'll text you, all right? You said with a small nod, feeling completely wiped after such an emotionally taxing day. I'll be waiting. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, Espoir. Before you had a chance to react, they pressed a soft kiss to the top of your head, just like they used to do every night before bed. Stop! During much happier and simpler times. You watched them wave and walk back down the street you both came from, stunned by their boldness. It was strange. The last memories you had of them were absolutely horrible. They hurled insults at you, threw a drink on you, and broke several of their own belongings. That's kind of a red flag. Never would you have imagined having such a normal conversation with them, one where they apologized and admitted their faults. It all felt so surreal. Was this really the same Tegan you've known all these years? Had they really changed over the past few months? Or was this all an act they were putting on to reel you back in? My money's on that. It was really hard to say. Once you were sure Tegan was gone, you headed home. Unbeknownst to you both, there was a pair of incredibly displeased, stormy eyes that had front row seat to the entire exchange. Oh no! When you returned home, you spent the rest of the night in your room, processing the situation and decompressing in whatever way felt right. You tried your best not to focus on what tomorrow would bring, but you found your thoughts occasionally drifting back towards it from time to time. Would you finally get closure from Tegan? Would they finally leave you alone after the conversation? I doubt that. Would you actually want them to leave you alone? Eventually, you drifted off to sleep. Oh, that was nice. Okay, so given the choice, if you run away from your ex and run into Garrett, and you tell him what's going on, and he offers to take you to his house for some nice hot cider, what if you refuse? What if, no, I want to go home? Thanks, but no thanks. I'll probably just head back to my place instead. As much as you appreciated his help making you feel better, the thought of going to a stranger's home was too nerve-wracking, especially after catching sight of your ex at the docks. Garrett's expression betrayed his disappointment. However, he nodded understandingly. I see. Would you at least let me walk you home? I want to make sure you get home all right. After everything that happened, you couldn't blame him for being worried about you getting home all right. And if you were being perfectly honest, the more you thought about walking home alone and potentially seeing Tegan, the more frightened you became. It far outweighed the fear of any potential consequences you might receive of letting Garrett know where you lived. Despite your better judgment, you nodded, and his brilliant smile returned, pleased that you would willingly take him up on his offer. Great. Now let's head back before it gets too cold, all right? He commented with a gentle expression before you both started off on your trip home. Oh. It took about 20 minutes to reach the cute little white gravel driveway that led further back towards the guest house. You turned towards Garrett and offered him a bashful, albeit grateful smile. Thanks, Garrett. You really saved me back there, and it means a lot. He beamed down at you, affectionately. Please, call me anytime. I'll gladly come running to rescue you again in the future. Oh, how incredibly sweet of him. You could see why anyone would be charmed by his demeanor. He could be very smooth when he wanted to be. I also wanted to ask, would you be interested in going on a date with me tomorrow? You paused. What did he just say? Did he really just ask you out? After everything that just happened? Sensing your confusion, he quickly continued, growing a bit nervous as he explained himself further. Well, after everything that just happened, I figured you might need a way to get your mind off of it. I'm still a bit concerned about you, and well, I'm being completely honest. I'm interested in getting to know you more. Tee-hee-hee. He shifted his weight from one leg to the other, anxious to know what your answer would be. He certainly had a point there. You hadn't really committed to anything tomorrow, and you weren't necessarily opposed to hanging out tomorrow. What do you say? What if I say no? Definitely, yes. I'd love to. It was as if you told him he had won the lottery, or several of them. His face lit up, and it took everything in his power not to exclaim to the heavens. Aww. To be honest, you did feel like you owed him a little. Garrett had been so kind and patient with you. Surely it wouldn't help to go on a date with him tomorrow, right? He seemed nice enough, and it wasn't every day that a catch like him would give you the time of day, much less ask you out. Wonderful. Before I forget, let's exchange numbers so we can communicate about tomorrow. He beamed at you, clearly ecstatic at the thought of spending the better part of tomorrow with you. Of course. Oh, and I'll go ahead and just text you my address so you have it for tomorrow, you say with a smile, as you exchange numbers, sending each other a quick text to make sure you both saved the correct numbers. He's so happy! I wonder what he's gonna say if I say no. Once that was sorted, you shoved your phone back into your pocket. All right, I'm going to head home. See you tomorrow, Garrett, you say with a smile, as you give him a small wave as you start walking off. Get home safely, Espoir. I'll see you tomorrow, he said with a bright smile as you split ways and started heading towards the back towards the guest house. If you had bothered to turn around in that moment, you would have seen Garrett standing, rooted in the same spot. His gaze didn't stray from your figure as you moved further and further away. It wasn't until you turned to the left behind the hedge that he finally stepped back and headed home, an excited smile tugging at his lips all the while. Unbeknownst to you both, across the street, behind a beautifully landscaped tree, was a crimson-haired person, quietly seething as they witnessed the sweet exchange between the two of you. What if I say no? Does he get upset if I say no? As nice as he was helping you out with everything, you really couldn't see yourself dating him, especially not on your precious day off. I'm really flattered, but I'm going to have to say no. You could see the moment your words registered in his mind, his expression completely changed. May I ask why? His voice was even, but there was a bit of an edge to it. Okay, clearly someone wasn't used to rejection. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that I'm going through some stuff and I can't do it right away. Wanting to get out of this situation as quickly as you could, you said the first thing that came to mind. I'm sorry, I'm just not ready to date anyone right now. Now, while it was a convenient excuse, it wasn't a complete lie. Clearly, you weren't over your ex. That much was obvious with how violently you reacted upon just seeing him at the docks. The tension that had grown between you dissipated like that. Nodding thoughtfully, he offered you a smile that didn't quite meet his eyes. I see. Well, I hope we can revisit this conversation when you're ready to step back into the dating world. Of course, I'll keep you in mind, you lied, wanting this interaction to end as quickly as possible. All right. Take care, Espoir. I suppose I'll see you around. Right. See you, Garrett. You give him a little wave before swiftly walking back towards the guest house. You ended up glancing back, only to see him standing there, staring at you in thought. Holy crap, that was beyond creepy. Why the heck did you let him walk you back? Aw. Making sure to lock the door behind you, you let out a heavy sigh. God, today was a mess from start to finish. Yeah, if only I would have went to work on my day off. Having lost your appetite, you decided to just call it a night and crawl into bed. Oh yeah, that reminds me. What happens if I leave before Garrett gets there? Aw, what if I'm really mean to Garrett and say, "Can you stop keeping tabs on me? It's creepy." His friendly smile fell for a split second. However, his mask returned almost instantaneously. He flashed you a charming smile as he tilted his head, his gaze burning into you, almost as if his eyes were chastising you. Why, you had no idea. As long as you don't do anything that could be deemed as suspicious, I can certainly make an effort to do just that. His words had a finality to them that left no room for further discussion. Something about his response rubbed you the wrong way. However, you didn't want to get into it with him, especially this early in the morning. Remembering his initial question regarding your schedule, you decided to answer him, especially since he seemed genuinely curious about it and, Well, it's not like it was exactly secret where you worked. Okay, so what if I do close up shop and head out? You've done exactly what was required of you, and it's time to enjoy the rest of your day off the way you want. 10 hours of Pal World. Snapping a picture of the empty shelf and the checked-off list, you text it to Rita before flipping over the sign and locking the front door. By the time you get to the back room, your phone buzzes, and you see Rita's text, thanking you for your help and promosing a dia off. Poor thing must have taken a little too much cold medicine if her spelling is so bad even autocorrect has given up on them. Eventually, you find yourself on the street outside of the bookstore once more. Where do you go? Oh yeah, let's see Marcelo at the bakery! Hey, this time it wasn't your fault you didn't bring lunch, okay? It was an impromptu workday, and well, you deserved a little sweet treat after doing a good deed and filling in for your coworker on your day off. Or at least, that was what you were telling yourself. Besides, you'll be able to afford it since you'll be getting paid extra this week. The walk to the bakery was brisk, both in pace and weather, and you were surprised to see how crowded it was inside. What the heck? It was a Thursday. Why? Your thoughts were immediately interrupted when you saw a mother and 3 young kids carrying a couple loaves of bread and a few pastries each. Ah, right, the hurricane. Of course, everyone would be stocking up on baked goods. You considered heading back home to avoid the crowd, but a freezing gust rattled you to your bones, and you were forced to seek refuge inside. If the outside was an uninhabitable tundra, then the inside was closer to an inferno. There's so many people here, how am I gonna flirt with Marcelo? It seemed as though the ovens had been going non-stop all day, whipping up breads and other delicious treats for their loyal customers, you included. That, coupled with everyone's body heat, was enough to make you want to pull off your coat the second you walked through the doors. It was difficult not to bump into someone, whether they were impatiently waiting in line or leaving with their fresh and still warm purchases. Man, I wish there was a local bakery nearby where I lived. Stepping back and out of the way, you caught sight of Marcelo, who appeared far busier than you'd ever seen before. He might have been a gentle giant, but man, could that man move under pressure. Those forearms alone could... You watched him reach up and brush his hair back, only for you both to make eye contact in a crowded room. It was cute watching the multitude of expressions cross his flushed features. Surprise, excitement, mock nonchalance, and finally that telltale smirk he had on his lips whenever he looked at you. "Wait for me," he mouthed over the crowd as he pointed at your usual seat before turning back towards the counter to take the customer's order again. It might have just been you, but it almost seemed as though your presence injected newfound energy into him. Figuring you had nothing left to lose, you decided to plop down on the seat and wait for the crowd to die down. Surely it wouldn't take long, right? Oh, how wrong you were. Nearly 30 minutes passed since you walked into the doors, and it looked busier than when you first walked in. Deciding to cut your losses, you decided to head home to find something to eat. No! Stay here and wait for Marcelo! Oh wait, you probably are starving, though. After all, the chances of buying anything edible seem slim to none at this point. Do you say goodbye? Of course! Okay, this is too much for me, Marcelo. I'll see you later. You gave a little wave goodbye before gesturing towards the door. The poor 6'2" man looked absolutely torn before he turned towards one of his co-workers to say something before the customer he had been attending impatiently coughed, trying to get his attention. Not wanting to stress the poor guy out any more than he already was, you called out to him. See you later. Good luck with the rush. And with that, you left the bakery, missing the expression of panicked devastation at your departure. Aww. Once you stepped back outside, you shivered as the frigid air hit your warm cheeks, immediately pushing your warm hands inside your pockets. wanting to preserve as much body heat as you could while you make your long journey home. You hadn't even taken 6 steps from the front door before it swung open, revealing a frantic and guilt-stricken Marcello. Oh! However, once he saw you, he calmed down, and an apologetic expression fell over him. "I'm so sorry about that, Espoir. I didn't realize how long I made you wait. We've just been slammed all morning and—" He was cut off by a strong freezing gust hitting his steaming hot body. Whoa, wait. There actually was a bit of steam radiating off of him. Just how hot had he been inside? Taken aback by his frantic state and sudden appearance, it took you a moment to catch your bearings before finally responding. "Oh! Hey, it's okay, really. I totally understand. So take a breath and go inside before you catch up." You trailed off, noticing a blue bag in his hand. His dark eyes followed yours until he realized what you were looking at. He let out a sheepish chuckle as his free hand reached up and rubbed the back of his neck before holding the bag out towards you. "I might have had a feeling that you'd stop by, so I set aside a few things for you. I'm glad I did, since we're practically out of all of your favorites," he admitted bashfully as he looked towards you expectantly, visibly nervous about your reaction towards his sweet gesture. "Oh, so does that mean he did that even when you choose to stay at work to 2 p.m. and go out with Garrett?" "What do you say?" "I say gimme." "Marcello, that's so thoughtful. Thank you." A brilliant smile appeared on his lips upon hearing your gratitude. His dimples proudly appeared on his cheeks as he handed you the gifts. "Don't worry about it, Espoir. I thought you'd stop by and wanted to make sure you had enough food to keep you going for the next few days. I'm off tomorrow, otherwise." "Really? So instead of confronting my ex or going out with Garrett, we could potentially go out with Marcello." "I'm off tomorrow. Otherwise, I would have waited to give you an even fresher batch of stuff to eat during the storm," he said with a grin, only to light up when he remembered something seemingly important. "Oh, He was interrupted by one of his co-workers opening the door and calling out to him to get back inside and help her. Very disappointed, he nodded before turning towards you once more. "Sorry, duty calls. Before I forget, have you decided if you're going to the party tomorrow?" he questioned hopefully. "Party? What do you say?" Sure. What party? Was this party mentioned before?" "Yeah, sure, the party that we're having, the party that's tomorrow, the party that I totally didn't forget about. I'll go." He could barely contain his smile upon hearing your answer. "Really? Sweet. Why don't I pick you up in my Jeep? The party is on the other side of the island, and would be a bit of a walk otherwise," he said with a bright grin, betraying his excitement. "So if it's a big island party, I'm assuming, since our ex is a DJ, if we don't see him here, we'll see him at this party being the DJ, where he will promptly be ignored. But of course, that's just a theory." If you had to choose between walking on the other side of the island in this weather or taking Marcello's car, the answer was obvious. "If it's not too much trouble, that would be great, Marcello," you said with a smile, his excitement rubbing off on you. "Awesome. I'll pick you up at 4, okay? Just text me the address when you get the chance," he said with a smile before glancing back at the entrance door, only to see a rather peeved co-worker waiting. "See you later, Espoir. Get home safe." He grinned as he rushed back inside, his co-worker pinching his side before glancing back towards you with a frown before they returned towards the counter. "Hey, we're just about to admit our undying love for each other." You had seen this co-worker a few times in the past. They were always polite towards you, but you sensed that they might have had a thing for Marcello. Not that he noticed. Whenever you were around, he focused all of his attention on you, which, understandably, must have been hard for his co-worker, especially during the lunch rush. Turning around, you headed back home. you found yourself daydreaming about how tomorrow would go. You had never been to one of Marcello's parties before, despite all of the invites, so you couldn't help but feel curious about what might possibly unfold. You wouldn't happen to have hired a DJ with red hair, did you? The weather was getting just a bit too cold for your liking, and the last thing you want to do is freeze your butt off when you could be bundled up nice and cozy at home, curled up on a couch, watching TV or reading one of the books you have on your to-read list, or playing 5 to 10 hours of Pal World. The walk back was brisk, and you let out a sigh of relief once you closed the door behind you, shutting out the freezing wind that had followed you home. Immediately, you start shedding your layers and hanging them up on the hook before you place the bag onto the coffee table, planning on going through it a little later. It was then you finally collapsed on the couch and pulled one of your favorite blankets over you, wanting to take a break from being out in the cold. You had just gotten nice and settled on the couch when your stomach protested, complaining of the neglect it had suffered due to your impromptu workday. Oh yeah. Letting out a protesting groan of your own, you reluctantly pulled yourself off of the couch and headed into the kitchen to grab something to eat. After a little bit of rummaging in the cabinets, you turned your attention to the fridge, only to be surprised by a Tupperware container with your name on a sticky note right on top. Oh. Something tells me you forgot your lunch for the 4th time this week. I thought I'd help you out and generously give you some of my leftovers. You can thank me by taking out the trash. Love, Camilla. Aww. Deciding to eat out of the container, you heated it up and brought it over towards the small dining table before deciding to watch something as you ate. You also ended up grabbing one of the pastries Marcello made for you as well. Even though it had grown cold from your walk, you could still taste the sweet and comforting flavor fill your mouth and warmed your body, including your heart. Let's just give everyone marriage proposals. Except Tegan. It wasn't until you finished eating and started clearing the table that you noticed a little folded piece of paper on one of the interior sides of the bag. Curious, you reached in, pulled it out, and unfolded the small piece of paper. You could immediately tell that Marcello took the time to make his usual messy chicken scratch as neat and legible as possible. Yet, despite his best efforts, the first sentence was difficult to read, not because of the handwriting, but because of the countless times he had started writing, doubted himself, erased what he had written, and started once more. The message read, Espoir. Aww. Espoir, I hope you like the selection I picked out for you, especially since I made sure to pack all of your favorites. I really hope you can make it to the beach party tomorrow. I think it'll be a blast, and a great way to end a busy summer season. You've been working your buns off, and I think a summer blowout is exactly what you need to let loose. If you can't make it, I hope you can at least enjoy these treats and think about how cool and thoughtful I am during the hurricane. Wink. See you tomorrow, I hope. Marcello. Aww. You couldn't help but smile once you finished reading his note. While you couldn't quite make out what he had erased, it was clear he put a lot of thought into this note, and the pastries he had carefully packed for you, completely free of charge. You really had to make it up to him the next time you saw him, whether it be adding a generous tip at the bakery or personally telling him how grateful you were at the party tomorrow. Carefully tucking the note in your pocket, you cleared the table and put the rest of the pastries in the kitchen. Camilla rarely ever ate anything of yours, and if she did, she would always ask beforehand, so you didn't have to worry about waking up to an empty bag. Speaking of which, you washed the dishes and took out the trash as per her request, and stood in the entryway, contemplating on what to do for the rest of the night. Go to your room? Hang out on the couch. It's on the couch. Deciding to enjoy the cozy common space for a while, you curled up on the couch under your favorite blanket and relaxed, doing whatever your heart desired. It wasn't until 11:47 p.m. that Camilla returned, shivering and exhausted from working at CBS. Hey, you greet, shifting on your spot on the couch so you were sitting up. Thanks for the leftovers. They were delicious, as always. It wasn't as if you stayed up later than usual for her. You simply wanted to enjoy the rest of your day off. And if that just so happened to be in the common space, well, that was just a pure coincidence. She let out a laugh and flashed you a smug little smirk. I knew you'd forget your lunch again. I swear, you'd starve if it wasn't for me. The pride in her voice was obvious. However, you couldn't help but find it a little endearing. After all, it was nice having someone look out for you in more ways than one. God, I'm fluffing beat. Everyone's acting crazy over the darn hurricane. Well, yeah, a hurricane is usually kind of a big deal, but also your eyes are beautiful. You'd think the world was ending with how much stuff people are buying. Apparently, all of the grocery stores were sold out of milk and bread, so they came to buy up all of our darn stock. I'm glad I grabbed some a few days ago before everyone lost their minds. She complained with a dramatic sigh as she draped herself over the edge of the back of the couch. You couldn't help but chuckle before you patted her arm reassuringly. At least you won't have to deal with their craziness once the storm hits. No one would dare leave their house. Did you know they were predicting 75 miles per hour winds? You commented, regurgitating information that several of your customers informed you this morning. She rolled her eyes. Oh God, I know. Literally everyone was talking about it while filling their baskets with anything that wasn't nailed down. She complained before peeling herself off the couch and headed towards her room. I'm gonna head to bed before I pass out here. Oh, before I forget, I wanted to tell you that I'm free tomorrow. So, if you wanted to have our hangout sesh, I'd be down. She offered, stopping at her doorway to look back at you. All my friends are free tomorrow! What do you say? Well, since this isn't the full game, and technically, I don't think my choice would matter, sure, I do not want to disappoint you. Sweet, I'll probably sleep till noon, so let's plan to hang out afterwards. Sound good? Yeah, that works for me. It's not like I had 3 other things that I could be doing tomorrow. Perfect. It's a date, she said with a wink before disappearing behind her bedroom door. Oh, night, Camilla, you called out before willing yourself to get up and return to your bedroom. As cozy as you were on the couch, you didn't want to mess up your back sleeping on it overnight. A mistake you've made far too many times in the past that you could admit. It didn't take long to fall asleep once your head finally hit the pillow. It wasn't until the middle of the night that your phone started buzzing again, and again, and again, revealing you got a new anonymous follower on all of your social media accounts. However, given the fact that you were fast asleep, you wouldn't see any of them until the morning. Or until this game gets updated, because that is the end of day 2. Well, I think here and there, I'm sure there's other choices I could make, but I think that's the majority of the ones, and oh boy, am I on the edge of my seat! So we got handsome blonde rich guy who's really, really, really interested in you, and maybe plotting a few things to have you all to himself. And then you got your ex who comes in and is trying to patch up things with you. And then you got your adorable boss who shares your pain of having an ex. And then you've got your super cute bakery worker friend whose smile is like liquid sunshine. And then you got your super cool and adorable roommate who you can just hang out with. I'm very excited to see what tomorrow will bring in this game. Also, this developer has a Patreon for people who are 18 and over. I'll put a link to their Patreon in the description as well if you would like to follow it and support them. Also, there's links down there to my Patreons, but you know, whatever. I don't know who my favorite is. They're all so charming. Let me know in the comments who your favorite love interest in this game is, because honestly, they're all really good. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Take care of yourself. Have a great night, and remember, there is always hope.